Benvenuti alla soluzione per le armi leggere. Oggi guardiamo alla Beretta AR70 il fucile dell'esercito italiano. Or in other words, welcome to Small Arms Solutions. Today we're looking at the Beretta AR7090 Italian military rifle. These are very, very rare in the United States, and I'm very fortunate to be able to get my hands on one. And we want to give you a little bit of an overview of some of the Italian service rifles they've had, post World War II. Michiko has probably one of the best videos available out there because he has the original BM59, he has the original AR70, so he has some of the rifles that you can actually see that I don't have access to. We're going to show you pictures that shows sort of the post World War II Italian military small arms history. Now we're going to start off with World War II. Or after World War II, the Italian Army adopted the M1 Garand in 7.62 by 63 to 30-06. Now, right after World War II in the 50s is when we got into the NATO standardization. That's when NATO standardized on the 7.62 by 51. So basically what the Italian military did, or Beretta did, was they took the 30-06 M1 Garand, scaled it down to fire 7.62 by 51 with a 20-round magazine. Now, all of this has some similarities in looks to the M14. It is not an M14. It is a scaled-down M1 Garand. Now, this went into service in 1959. Again, modified detachable 20-round magazine. Weighed about 9.75 pounds. A length of 43.1 inches. The barrel of 19.3 inches. Bipod. It had a flash hider. It had a grenade launcher. And it was selective fire. Rifles were very, very well built. They served, again, a very, very short time because, right with the introduction of the M16 into the Vietnam War, NATO started looking at the small caliber high velocity. So the BM59s, you can see them in the United States. They're not very common. They are available. There are a lot of collectors out there who do like them. They do have a proprietary magazine. They're not compatible with the US M14 really at all. But it's a very, very well-made rifle, selective fire. Again, it had the same shortcomings as the M14 for as far as the heavy recoil. But in Italy, the Alpini Mountains, where you had longer ranges, the 7.62 was quite good. However, things do change. And then came 1963. And 1963 was very interesting because Beretta had a joint effort with SIG in Switzerland. And that was to work on a new rifle that would end up being the SIG 530. Well, that started in 1963. 1968, the Italians said, basta, we're done. We're going to go out on our own. So the Swiss went on to release their SIG 530, and Beretta went on to go with their AR70 rifle. Now, the AR70 rifle is very similar in many ways to the SIG 530. It was the same principle. It was a long stroke piston. The part of the recoil system was actually on the operating rod rather than the back of the receiver, and it had some similarities. However, that's really where it stopped. Now, the AR-70 went into production in 1972 in the military. There was two versions. You had the AR-70, which is the military, and the AR-70/223, which is the civilian. Now, some of those came in the United States. They're very, very rare, and if you can find them, they are really, really, really expensive. Now, the AR-70, again, 5.56 NATO. It had a proprietary magazine, as you'll see in the pictures. It weighed 70. It was overall length of 39.1 inches, 17.7 inches in length for the barrel. Barrel was chrome plated, and weight of 8.3 pounds. So now we look at the differences in weights between the two. You're looking at a 9.75 pound BM59 to a 8.3 pound AR70, which carried 30 rounds of lightweight, high velocity ammunition. Now, the receiver was a stamped sheet metal, and it was a square with a cross section. And it had stamped in bolt guides. Now, with this kind of a rifle, the bolt rides on rails to keep it going straight and in line. It's like an AK, unlike an AR-15 where it's direct inline, so everything goes straight back. When you have any kind of a piston, it tends to want to knock it down, so this keeps it in line. Now comes to the rifle that we see right here. This is the Beretta AR7090. In 1990 which is when this was accepted into service. Now, there were some modifications that were made over the original AR70. First and foremost was NATO standardization. And that came with the magazine. So instead of using the proprietary magazine we had on the AR70, now we have the Stanag magazine. The next major change was the barrel. The barrel now is a chrome-lined 1 in 7-inch twist. The original AR-70 was a 1 in 12. It was designed to shoot the M193 55 grain ammunition. Again, the AR-7090 came through with standardization, which made it compatible with the M855 or SS109 ammunition that was adopted by NATO. Now this one has, which you see, a detachable carrying handle, but this is more of a quick sight. But you have your standard sights that you have front and rear. Now you have a grenade launching sight where you flip upward on here. This is your grenade launching sight. It cuts off the gas. You have an adjustable gas valve on the front. You have adverse and standard conditions. As you see, we have a bipod on here, handguard. Now we have a 2-piece receiver up and over. We're going to take this apart, and so you're going to take a look and see how this thing works on the inside. Now this one here, the overall length was 39.2 inches, with a 17.7-inch barrel, chrome plated again. Weight was 8.9 pounds. Now it was a little bit heavier than the standardization of the AR-70 because again you have some additions to them. The standard bipod. This came in 2 configurations. You had a standard stock, which you see here, but you also had a side folding stock. Now, for as far as this was a selective fire rifle, this was not just safe semi-auto. The original Beretta AR-70 was safe semi-auto. This was safe semi-auto and 3-shot burst. So you had a 4-way position on this one. So now we're going to go over the rifle in more detail. Now, this particular rifle came in as a parts kit, and there was a company right here in Texas, Interfor, which, to my pleasure, was an Italian gentleman who owned it. And he brought these kits in and he rebuilt them here. And he did an absolutely gorgeous job on this rifle. For as far as fit and finish, considering this was a parts kit gun, did an absolutely wonderful job on it. So let's start taking a look at this thing from back to front. Again, we have the polymer stock on here. This stock was standard for the military, but it also had a side folding stock. So we have the pistol grip here. Now, the pistol grip is a little bit small for my hand, but we have an ambi safety, safe semi-auto, well, safe, 1, 3, and repeat. Again, this being a semi-automatic only rifle, civilian use, this is just there for show, but this is a semi-automatic only. You have your magazine release in the front here. Now, looking at the left side, you have a ping pong paddle type bolt catch like you have for the AR-15 M16, where it will lock open on the last shot. It's a mag magazine. You do have a winter trigger like you have for on an M16 as well, because again the Alpini soldiers of the Italian military are up in very cold environments. Now the magazine we're taking a look at here is a standard U.S. government type magazine. This is a steel magazine made by Beretta. They're actually marked Beretta. However, this is a standard Colt magazine. They fit in there as well. Now, I've not used anything other than the steel magazines on here. Pretty much all I've used is the Beretta magazines anyways. Now the sight, as you see on here. As you see, we have a top little carrying handle here, which we're going to be able to remove. We're going to show you that in a minute. But you have 2 dots here for quick shooting, and then for your longer range shooting. You have 2 apertures, one for 250 and one for 400 meters. And you have your adjustable front sight is very similar to that of an AK. So to remove the carrying handle, we push in on the button, and we can lift our carrying handle right out. Now we have our standard rifle sights on here. You'll see this go both ways. However, I will say having the quick sight on there for quicker shooting, this is quicker. This is really good to have on there. I actually prefer it on there, but we'll have it off. Now this is a stamped sheet metal. So it's trapezoid shape. It's much stronger than the original AR-70, and you also have welded in rails in here that the bolt rides on. Very smooth. And you also can see we have an ejection port cover here, basically. That's spring-loaded, so as you pull the bolt back, it opens up, and then that closes up. It keeps the rifle very much sealed up so dirt can't get into it. Now looking forward, we have the bipod again that just deploys. And we have our handguards on here, which these handguards, unfortunately, they do heat up really quickly. And we already went over the front sight, but we're going to go through it again. Again, we have an AK type sight here. As you can see, you adjust it the same way you would with an AK. This is your adjustment valve. You have this is normal conditions. Then you can flip over for normal conditions. So it gives you higher, more gas for adverse conditions. So using a grenade launcher, flip up, and when you flip that up, that cuts the gas off of the rifle, so it shoots the grenade. You have a sling swivel point on here. Unfortunately, I was not able to procure a sling for it. So let's take a look at how this thing comes apart. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull the handguard out. Once you pull the handguard out, we can pull the 2 pins. We pulled our front pivot pin out. Now we can separate the upper and lower receiver. So now where it sort of gets a little bit more interesting when we take a look at how the gas system comes apart. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the bolt out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, actually you can pretty much take anything. Let me grab a little bit of a pin puncher. But normally you could use just a bullet tip. We're going to pull rearward on this little slide right here. And when we pull rearward on that, it releases the carrying handle. Now, it releases the bolt. Bolt is very interesting. This is one of the ways that it differs itself from the SIG 530. This uses more of an AK style of bolt. So as you can see, we have the bolt, we have the firing pin, we do have a firing pin retaining pin. That comes right out, and now we have our firing pin. And that's all there is to the bolt mechanism. So looking at the bolt, you can see how that's very similar to that of an AK. You can see your cam track in here, your firing pin, and retaining pin. So now we're going to get a little bit more interesting. Let's see how this gas system comes apart. We have a little bit of a button that we have here that we push in, and we unscrew the tip of the barrel. Slides right off. Now we start pulling this apart. Gas block comes right off. There comes your gas port, the gas tube. Rotate, and we pull the gas system right out. So here we have the gas system. This is a piston, just like that of an AK, which that sits in just like so. So that will knock back the bolt the same way an AK does. So again, we have a long stroke system on here. We can see our gas block. Oddly enough, you would think that this thing would leak more than it does, but it really doesn't. It's a very durable design. You see your bayonet lug on there as well. And now you can see your barrel. It's held down with a barrel nut. We can see we have a welded in, we have a fixed position ejector on here. And this certainly launches those cartridge cases quite a ways when it fires. And here again is your port cover. It keeps everything out of there. So for reassembly, this is where the similarity is between the SIG 530 is the way the recoil system works, because that goes in like so, and then that's held in, and then that's held in by the rod here. So that's how your system is. That's what's very similar to that of the SIG 550, but that's pretty much where it ends. Everything else is very, very different on the AR7090. So let's get this back together. First thing we're going to do is we're going to insert our gas tube. We rotate that in place. Then we're going to take our gas tube. That's going to slide right back over into place. We take our gas block, we slide that right in place. Now we're going to take the front of our barrel, and we're going to tighten that right up by hand until it catches. A lot of threads on there. That's our last one. So now we'll look at our bolt carrier group. We're going to take our firing pin, drop our firing pin in, firing pin retainer, our bolt. Make sure our bolt's in the unlock position. Okay, now we take our bolt, we drop our bolt right back into place. And now we put our charging handle back in. Now, as you can see on the charging handle, you can see we have a little bit of an edge on there. Edge goes right into place. And there we have it. So now we can drop out, put back our bipod. Take a look at the little receiver. Stamped and welded receiver. As you can see that we have similar to a FAL type trigger mechanism on here, fairly complex. And of course this had to be modified so it wouldn't fire the burst or the auto. You see our bolt catch we have right here. Again, ambi safety. It's nice and colored in. But again, this is all cheap sheet metal, but it holds up quite well. Again, it's a big improvement over the original AR70. So for reassembly, we get our pin. Now, as you see, we have this hook on here. That hook goes right underneath that pin and locks it into place. And then all we do is we take our rear takedown pin, and it gives a little bit of a tap sometimes. And we snap our carrying handle back on there. And now we're back to business. So I think what we're doing now is take this to range and we're going to see how it shoots. Well, as we saw, this thing shot flawlessly. Again, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really shoot this thing for groups because, again, this was not an original rifle. The barrel was not original, so I didn't really, I shot it at 25 yards, did a BZO, and as I said, all the shooting was done with iron sights, so the thing was certainly shooting well. So in 2008, there was a new program put out by the Italian military called the Soldado Futuro, which basically is a modernized soldier. So they wanted a new rifle. Well, they wanted a completely new platform, and that is when this came out. This is the Beretta ARX100. This is the civilian version of the ARX160. A completely new platform. As you can see, it makes extensive use of polymer. So you're looking at 8.9 pounds on the AR7090 versus 6.8 pounds on the ARX160, ARX100. Again, this is unlike this, which is a long stroke piston. This is a short stroke piston. And there are many modifications that were made to this, such as a quick detach barrel. We have a video on the ARX100, ARX160, so we're not going to go too much into it. But we just want to show you what had replaced it. 0.56 millimeter ammunition. It's a short stroke piston. Now, ambidextrous was a big deal for the Italian military over the past rifles that they had. When it came to ambi features on the AR70-90, you only had the ambidextrous safety. That was it. Well, on the Beretta AR160, the replacement rifle, we have a fully ambidextrous bolt catch, magazine release, and even ejection. You can reverse the ejection pattern, so this will eject out of the left-hand side. So that was a major difference. Also, the use of the 1913 rail. They wanted to be able to use force multipliers, so basically you could put on any kind of optic that you would want on the top. They had their own special backup sights that they used. You had a grenade launcher that would go onto this one as well. Now the barrels, interestingly enough, this is the Italian military issue barrel, which is 16 inches. But they also have a 12-inch. About a year ago, we were in Italy, and we saw a whole bunch of esercito, or Italian military soldiers. They were protecting buildings and monuments and such. They were all carrying these with the 12-inch barrels. Talking to several of them, they had certainly liked the AR70, but they certainly appreciated how much lighter this was. Now, for as far as durability was concerned, that gets a little bit interesting with this rifle, because this rifle has gone through several other countries as a potential rifle, and it has had some issues with durability and reliability. However, the Italian military has used them in Afghanistan. I saw Italian soldiers in Afghanistan when I was over there. They were equipped with these, and these things were working just fine for those guys over there. This has been adopted by some other countries, but this was the evolution. Again, we go World War II, M1 Garand. Then we have the 1950s. We have NATO standardization with the 7.62 NATO. We had the BM59. And then right in the 1960s, when we were looking at the M16 in this country, they switched over to the AR70 in 5.56. And then with NATO standardization, they went with the AR70-90, which took the new NATO standardized ammunition. Then 2008 to present is we have the ARX160, or this is the ARX100, the commercial version. So looking at the short history of the esercito, or the Italian military, what they've done. Currently, in Ukraine, many of the AR-70s, 90s have been spotted. So evidently what Italy's been doing is taking a lot of their war stock of these older rifles, and they've been providing them to the Ukrainian army. Just like we've seen many C7s from the Canadian military, a lot of older rifles that you've seen, they were people's war stock that wound up over in the Ukraine. So these are still being in service today in various countries. However, the Italian military, they've all switched over to the ARX100. So overall, this was a very interesting video. This is a very, very rare rifle to ever get a chance to take a look at. Very, very fortunate to be able to have one. It was a very interesting, I do want to tell you the story about how I found this rifle. I was on Gunbroker, and I typed in AR-70 because I was looking for an original AR-70. Of course, those were, $6,000. They were crazy. And all of a sudden, this pops up. And it was a lower amount. I forget what it was, maybe around 2,000 or something like that. And I look at it, so I pop it open, and it says Houston. Interesting. So enter 4. I look it up in Houston. Coming to find, this guy's shop was not even 10 or 12 miles from my house. So not knowing if it was a factory or not, I show up to the address, and sure enough, it was a house. And I knock on the door, and here is a really nice Italian guy, Simone. He lets me in and lets me take a look at it, and we have some very, very interesting conversations. I see his shop. I see some of the incredible rifles that he's building there out of kits. He has a very talented gunsmith there, and he's made these. You'll see the ones on Michiko as well. William had bought a couple of them too. I think William even provided him with some parts kits to even build the rifles. So being able to actually find one of these and have one that works, and again, this one here is 100% reliable. I don't want to shoot it as much because, again, replacement parts are very, very rare. But this was a really, really neat rifle to use, a really neat piece of history. So I'm very fortunate to have one. So, as you saw, we were shooting at our challenge targets. If you guys are interested in getting some steel targets, again, it's so much more fun than shooting at paper. Unless I'm shooting for groups, I want to shoot at steel. We do have a code SAS where you can save 10% on any steel target they have. And also, if you're looking for any of these rifles that you're seeing with the 5.56, you have Otis cleaning kits as well. These are your standard 5.56 cleaning kits. You don't need the MSR AR because you're not using the bolt tool, but any of the 5.56 cleaning kits that you'll see on the website will be suitable for any of these type rifles. And we'll have links in the description. And you can also use our code SAS15 to save 50% on any of the products that Otis has to offer. Otis makes the best cleaning kits in the industry, so I'm glad to be able to have them as somebody who I've worked for Otis in the past. I've even done some development work on some of their cleaning kits, so I know the products really well, and they are without a doubt the best cleaning kits that are out there. So if you're looking for cleaning kits, save yourself 50% and get Otis. So I do hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, please click like, please subscribe, even better, share. Thank you.